Welcome to the DFMI Business Lab podcast, brought to you by the Durban Film Art Institute, presented in partnership with DW Academy, supported by the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. DFMI Business Lab podcast draws inspiration from the 18-week online program which focuses on the business elements of filmmaking, aimed at equipping film producers with the skills to grow their careers. Our host today is Moreetsi Gabang, who is an alumni of the DFMI Business Lab.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to the DFMI Business Podcast Series. My name is Moreetsi Gabang. A little bit about myself, I'm a writer-director from Botswana. I'm also an alumni of the DFMI Business Lab from the 2021-2022 cohort. I'm also an alumni of the Talents Durban and Berlinale Talents programs, and also an alumni of the DFMI Jumpstart program. So I'm a DFMI baby. But more importantly, in this episode of the DFMI Business Lab podcast series, we'll be continuing our conversation about the business management module. And I'm super excited because we have an incredible guest today by the name of Njoki Muhoho. And Njoki, I really struggled in terms of trying to figure out what to include, what to maybe exclude from your bio. So I just really wanted to just go through it very quickly because I think you've done so many incredible things over the course of your career, and it just allowed me to just give you your flowers as you know, people tuning in to know who exactly.
It makes me uncomfortable when people read my CV, but you say if you want to give me my flowers, let me have them now, not when I'm dead, you know,
Exactly.
but make it very brief.
I mean, there's a lot you've gone through. So, all right. So to give everyone some context over who this incredible woman is, Njoki Muhoho is a cultural architect, executive producer, scriptwriter, educator, and management consultant, founder of Zebra Productions, whose career bridges creative industries and organizational transformation. She's got over 22 years of experience in the film and television industry and more than 35 years in management consultancy. And within the creative arena, Njoki has been at the forefront of African storytelling as a multi-award-winning producer and writer. Her credits include Salem, Shanga, Mama Duka's TV series, Limo on the Run feature documentary, and numerous Africa Magic original films. She's also a member of the International Academy of Television Arts and Sciences and a juror to the International Emmy Awards. And she served as a chief juror for several Pan-African film festivals and awards. Incredible. She's also an alumni of the New York Film Academy, and she's played the leading role in shaping the continent's creative ecosystem. She's the founder and president of Women in Film and Television in Kenya, and a founding and former Academy Director of the Multi-Choice Talent Factory East Africa. She also does a lot of development work in terms of talent development, and including her role as the lead business lab, her role as lead business lab facilitator at the Durban Film Art Institute, a script consultant with Africa No Filter program designer for gender equity storytelling program with entertainment and media hubs in Kenya and Nigeria. She's also been named winner of the most influential woman personality in film at the inaugural Film Awards, Women in Film Awards 2020. And as a management consultant, Njoki has worked with government, public sector institutions, commercial corporates, international partners, United Nations agencies across East and Central Africa. She's got incredible, incredible credentials in terms of leadership, cultural change, and human resource transformation. There's just so much, Njoki, that you've done. And I know it sounds, listing them off as we go along, it might be a little uncomfortable, but I just think you're incredible in terms of what you do. So that's just a gist of what our guest today has done. So welcome, Njoki.
Thank you so much, Moreetsi. I feel like you exaggerate, but yes, I've done their stuff. It just sounds like wow, but yes, it's been a journey. It's been opportunities to meet diversity of people, to work with different people, and most important, every everything that sounds like an achievement there has been more of learning opportunities. That's how I see it. And for each one of them, I have somebody to thank for and people whom I've learned from. Thank you.
Before we begin, I would love to preface this conversation with the fact that we're both film practitioners by profession, which means the questions and the answers will be a little more skewed towards the film and television industry. But a lot of this information we'll discuss during this talk is applicable to any individual looking to open up any kind of business. So enjoy.
Correct.
You know.
Correct.
So yeah, so you head up the business management module during the sorry, let me take that again.
Yes.
So you head up the business management module for the DFMI business lab. So I wanted us to sort of walk through the entire process of the information. So you usually begin the module with a survey that participants take to sort of, and to complete. Yeah. So could you walk us through the types of questions that are included in the survey and what's the purpose of the survey?
All right, maybe if I can start by explaining that. I'm a people developer. Sheer coincidence that I'm also trained as a teacher. I also do a lot of workshop facilitation and so on. You've mentioned my background as a filmmaker, but let me also say I'm dual career. I merged 2 careers. I'm a management consultant with a background at Pricewaterhouse. So training, impacting knowledge, sharing knowledge with adults, those of whom I might not even be an expert in their technical areas, but I deal with the generic areas of leadership, management, and that sort of thing, communication, presentation skills. So what I do with DFMI, or how I began so many years ago, is it 5 or 6 years, it's really the ABCD of a good trainer. If you're going to be impacting, to be the conduit of transferring information, that's 1. And 2, to be the conduit for helping people know their potential and extract that which they already know, but they don't know, their blind spots, because lots of people know, but they don't know they know. So chances of applying is very low. The ABCD, the 101 of an effective teacher is know where your learner is. The module you attended, the cohort you personally attended, I used a questionnaire. The others, I don't necessarily use a questionnaire. It's any method for me to know who are the participants. I did use a detailed questionnaire, the first cohort, because this is the first time I was doing this program. And there was a mix of people from many countries, especially many whose English was like a 3rd, 4th language. So I needed to know who is my student. Who is my student? The use of questionnaires, studying people's names and going even to social media or seeing, oh, if they work for that company, I have an idea. If they've worked on that production, that Mnet production, that Netflix production, then I know who is this person. It is the TNA, training needs analysis. And it's also knowing who is my participant, who is this learner. So I use all sorts of methods. At times it's just reflection, look at the list, reflect what country, what kind of projects, and I have the information and I'm ready to go. I hope I've answered the question.
Yeah, no, you've answered it perfectly. Because I remember during the talks that you gave, we started off with the questionnaire, we kind of got an understanding of what you wanted, and then we, jumped straight into this idea of business, and you really gave us a really great overarching understanding of what business is. But I'd like to start at the beginning, which is, the forms of employment. So what are some of the common reasons you've observed that draw people to self-employment versus, traditional employment?
Why the different forms of employment, and why did I begin with that? Yeah. Let's first briefly take a step back. When you're told, can you run a business lab for the filmmakers from so many different countries? The first question I asked is, what level are they at? What do they want to know? And even that questionnaire, I did ask people, what is your expectation? Now, the thing is, the next task after I know who the student is to develop the curriculum. Let's go there, the curriculum, because the modules are developed from module 1 to number 7. And with time, I think I started with 8 modules. We've collapsed them now to 5. So the first most important thing is to develop the curriculum that matches the requirements of the participants and that of the client. Therefore, I began with, why are you doing what you're doing in the way you're doing? This is a business lab. So let's see, what business model do you use? Do you use it for survival, or do you use it because that's what you want to do? If you're employed by a broadcaster, is it because that is what you've always wanted to do? To be on payroll, do the work you're given, and know that you always get a salary at the end of the day, which means you have a record with your bank. You can take a loan because they can see you get money. You can take all sorts of financial commitments because you're employed. You are safe. But the others would say, I don't care. Let me stay jobless for 2 months. And then I get a real good job. And I get my dollars, I get my money, and I save up the money or invest it in something. Those are the independent people. They are the freelancers. There are others who are like, oh no, I am going to be an employer so that I can choose the jobs I want when I want to do it and be a risk taker because my DNA is wired as an entrepreneur, and being employed would make me miserable. For example, if you ask me, Moreetsi, if a bank came to me and told me, Njoki, we want to employ you as a manager in the bank and pay you a million shillings a month, 1 million Kenyan shillings a month, I would say, I really want the money, but the job's gonna kill me. I'm not designed for that. So I would say, no thanks. And they'd say, don't you want the money? And I'll ask, don't I want my happiness? Yeah, I hope I've answered your question.
No, you've done so brilliantly, because I think going into the program for me, I ran a production company, and I gained a lot of skills from that. So
yes,
it was very interesting to sort of go through the information you were giving us. So I'm very interested now in knowing, for the listeners who are wanting to open up their own company or already are opening up their company, how important is it for them to do that initial research on their country's respective Companies Act and talk to a registrar or a lawyer or
yes.
the people who help in the process of opening up a company?
I worry that, and if you remember in the class, I kept the first homework I give the participants is, go to your country's website or find out who is responsible for registering companies and download your Company Act. Every country has Company Act. It tells you, in this country, these are the different vehicles in which you can run a company. And I use the term vehicle because that is the legal term. They would tell you, these are the profit making, these are the non-profit making. If they're non-profit making, there are those that are community based, there are those are developmental agencies, there are those which are commonly called the NGOs. And each has got its own rules. Some are very similar, but they have just one little difference. This affects how you run the business. It affects how you make your tax returns. It also affects where your sources of funding come from. It also affects whether you make profit or not. You can't go forming a company limited by guarantee, and then you start keeping some of the revenue for yourself to buy yourself a car. No, the rule is you revamp the money back into the company. So you can only pay yourself salaries. You can only pay for, let's say if you use equipment, you hire the equipment. Your company can, you even as an individual, you can lease the equipment to the company, but you can't make profits. But if it's a typical profit-making company, there you are. Go hustle, go work hard, pay your taxes, retain your money as your profits, and go and buy yourself a fancy car. So ignorance is not defense. They tell us that in law courts quite often. Ignorance is not defense. The fact that you're a 23, 24-year-old filmmaker doesn't mean you shouldn't know the laws of your land on registration of companies. It's not only because you want to register a company, it's also because you know the do's and the don'ts and the extents of discretion, the dimensions, the boundaries of what your employer can do or not do. So we cannot be ignorant employees. We cannot be ignorant employers. I hope I've answered.
You have. Thank you. So if we continue the thread of individuals wanting to start up their own companies, there's this really beautiful African proverb that you once said during the talk, and that's lived with me since. I think it's something like, a man who knows not where he's going, any road will do.
Oh, yes.
That's
one of my favorites. Yes.
Yeah. So when it comes to this idea of, I want to open up a business, in this case, a production company, how important is it to then have a business plan that's clear and concise in terms of what's the point of it?
One, as somebody who designs courses, I've always had a natural tendency to study curriculums. And I've seen with time as a population expands, political leadership changes, government leaders change, dynamics of work environment change, relationships across countries change, all the things that are happening in the world today, even throw in COVID and all that and so on. I feel that if you're one of those people who are followers, so-and-so is employed by this company, even me, can't I look for a job there? So-and-so got promoted, even me, I want to be promoted. So-and-so has gone to, let's say, like how so many Kenyans used to come to your country a while back to work there. They'll come and do 2-year contracts and all that. And then if my friends are packing off and going to Botswana to work as expatriates, they're like, even me, I want to be an expatriate. How long are you going to say, even me, even me? How long are you going to be a copycat? A cut and paste. Where is your spine? Where is your individuality? The reason why some people become lawyers and others become criminals. There's a saying, also again, because I'm deeply rooted in the African culture, there's a saying, and I do a direct translation from my mother tongue, from the same womb comes the witch doctor and the criminal, which means they are brother and sisters, but one is doing the bad thing and the other one is the one chasing them or casting spells on them. So the same way the world is, we are so different and we have to identify with our individuality. And that's why later on, towards the end of the program, I ran the session on the psychometrics on self-awareness. Because the more you are aware of self, it is the gateway. It is the gateway to understanding why other people are different from you and how you should respect that. So the fact that Njoki has packed her bags to go and work as a teacher in Botswana doesn't mean all my friends who say, I'm also coming to Botswana. There could be a disaster. They could be miserable there. Yeah. Also, for me, if I'm going because everybody is doing it, how do I know the environment will be conducive for me to blossom? Might be the perfect environment for me to die, spirit-wise, career-wise. So going back to your question, we do not have a standard DNA. We are all different. That's one. 2, that is nature, how nature packaged us, how nature wired us. Some people are born with a gift of numbers. Some people are born with a gift of telepathy or intuitiveness. Some people have a power of words. Like I know my words ability is a lot stronger than my number abilities. So if somebody goes doing makes me a lot of money doing accounting and finance, I promise you, Moreetsi, I'm not going to start doing certification in maths. I'm going to be so miserable, and at best, I will have average marks. In college, and I digress, in college, the one subject I spend more time, like 50% of my time went to one subject, accounting. The one subject that I could barely make more than a C grade was accounting. But if it were literature in school, I didn't study and I was tops of the class. See what I mean? DNA, that which comes naturally, you had nothing to do with it, but it was wired in your genes. That's one. Then how we are brought up, how we are nurtured. How we are nurtured, it either helps us blossom in the things we're gifted in, or we develop certain passions. What do I mean by developing certain passions? The people around you can inspire you so much, and you feel, I want to be like so-and-so. You start emulating them. You start copying lots of things. You learn lots of things, and you end up excelling, not because of innate talent, but because the passion is so strong. You're so driven, and you find that you are learning a lot, and you become good at it. So to answer your question, we are all different from our DNA. That's nature. We are also different because of how we were nurtured, how we are brought up, the schools we went to. And just like filmmakers, we talk about actors on a voyage. That voyage of life from when you are young, who are the mentors? Who are the mentors that came across your path, and how did they influence you? That makes us so different. So we can't call copying each other. We need to go internally, discover ourselves, and have a plan for our career. Your question was on planning. Have a roadmap, because for a woman or a man who doesn't know where they are going, any road would do. And before you know it, you'll be like a beetle on water going round and round in circles. Long answer to your question, but in summary, know yourself, know your abilities and the opposite, know where your passions are, and have a roadmap. And the struggles you come through that journey will be gratifying because you know where you're going.
Well, thank you for that, Njoki. Yeah, because I think like you're saying, it's important to make sure that your personal plan and your business plan align. These are two things that are running in parallel with each other, so that you're developing both aspects of your life.
Yes.
And I think, like you're saying, the one informs the other. You develop the personal, you'll be able to define the type of business that you want to go into, the type of field you want to go into. I want to talk in terms of practicalities now, going back to setting up a business. So when we start talking things like vision statement, we hear these terms all the time, but what exactly is a vision statement, and how does it help? How does it help, define success of a business?
Why is a personal plan important and matching with your business strategy? Every day, we wake up and spend 8 to 12 hours either traveling to work, at work, or just working hard. And in the film industry, we put in ordinary long hours of work. If we are spending more than 60, 70% of our everyday thinking, working, or traveling to work, then that work is so significant in our lives, we have to make sure we know where we are going. In knowing where we are going, then, if we are running a company or we are employed, we must to make sure that we have a plan, a personal plan, and where we are working, the two are speaking to each other. If you're just taking a job for the sake of money, because we desperately need the money, that is okay, because we have to live, we have to eat, we have to have a roof over our heads. However, when you have a plan, you will know, I'm taking this job not because I like it, but it's a temporal thing where I look for that. So I'm not saying at times you'll not find yourself doing a job you don't like. I'm not saying that. At times you take employment which is not ideal for you, but so long as you know this is a means towards, but you don't have that towards what, then you'll be changing jobs all the time and you will not even grow. Self-growth will not be there. You can as well be a criminal who looks for a pickpocketer, who looks for who is not conscious of their bags and whatever, or whose gate or front door is easy to break in. You just be breaking into people's doors. And what about if everybody tightens their gates and you can't get in? Then are you going to be hungry? Bad to use a criminal example, but I think anybody hopping from job to job because they're getting an extra shilling is equivalent to a robber. But if you take on something that is not your ideal, but it needs to give you that one step towards, it's like taking a job you don't like so you can save money and go and study editing. That makes sense. And that job you're doing, you might be a salesperson in the supermarket, standing for hours, but you make the money. So they've got to speak to each other. And even when they don't, you know, it's a journey out so you can come back. But when you come back, a journey out so you can come back. But when you come back, this has lifted. So you go out, come back, this lifts. Go out, come back, this lifts. So it's what I call the S curve. You're growing. It's going up. Yeah.
That's quite beautiful, because I think that, you know, it like portrays, like you're saying, that's sort of the vision statement of where you want to take your life, where you want to take your company.
Yes.
But also making sure that you need to have it, you know, these steps that you're talking about, they need to be quantified. They need to be very specific. So how important is it to be able to be very specific in terms of the actions and initiatives in order to reach success for a company?
A very brief and straightforward answer. If you're going on a road trip, you know where you want to head, by when. You know what is your preferred destination, and preferably by when. But you could get edge in trouble, you could get punctures, you could get and all that. Also, you know, you need to stop and take some refreshment, and you need to stop, maybe go to the bathroom, or there's a beautiful scenery somewhere along the way, and you want to stop and soak in that. Or there's an old schoolmate who lives nearby, so you also want to stop by and say hello. All those things do not necessarily have to do with the final goal of, after 8 hours of driving, you will arrive at X city where you have a client meeting. Okay, so all those stops, coffee, bathroom, scenery, pictures, even sleepovers because the journey is long, they are all part of this journey. It's what life is. So I guess that's my analogy as a response to your question. Even when we know that's our destination, unless you're Robinson Crusoe who lives alone in an island, you're still a human being with social requirements, biological requirements. So you will cut across as you move to your path. As you're moving to a path, you're cutting across, but you still know this is where I'm going. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that, because it explains, you know, exactly where you need to go. But I want to talk in terms of how do you start measuring that?
Rome was not built in a day. Let me go back to your question. How do you get to that final goal? There's got to be milestones. Rome was not built in a day. You need to do progress reports for yourself. Call yourself to a meeting after 1 year, 2 years. Where am I compared to my final 5-year goal? So those milestones, equivalent to the stops on the road, in your road trip, the places you stop for coffee, that probably means in 2 years' time, I must have made a short documentary. There is your first journey to being a leading documentarist. Another milestone would be, I must have worked as DOP with a leading documentary DOP. That's another milestone. So what do people need? It's a tick box. The minimum I need on this journey is African proverb. Every African country has what in East Africa we call ugali. It's made of maize meal. Some will make it from maize, some from cassava, some from millet, whatever. It's a big, hot African cake. It comes from the pot boiling hot, and it can burn your fingers because we eat it with our fingers. It can burn your mouth. But you have to scut around it, eating in small portions till you finish it, or till you get your full. That is what a strategy and milestone is. In portions, you can swallow breaks that you need, but you have no doubt about the end goal. You are hungry, you have a mountain of ugali in front of you. In this case, you have a career, you have a strategic objective, you have something to achieve, and you've started the journey. What are your milestones? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I think with like just taking a personal example, like I said, I run this production company, and we have this very big goal of becoming the number one, the leading production company on the continent. And we want to, after 5-10 years, we want to say, for example, produce 5 films a year, 5 feature films, 2 telenovelas, 2 feature documentaries, all that, all those milestones to be able to say, this is the benchmark of what success is for us. And we also conduct things like SWOT analysis and pastels, and you have these different measurements. I don't know if you want to go into what exactly those are. Like, what is a SWOT analysis? What is pastel?
101 of strategy. You start with the general goal, the dream. I want to be the leading. I want to be the go-to. It's a dream. You're allowed to dream, because people without dreams have very little to show. You dream. Then a dream is not what put money on your plate. So you start breaking it down. What are the key steps? Given the current environment and where I am and who I am and the people I'm working with, what are the 5 to 8 things that I must do towards getting there? So you define the there, because in the goal, the there, when you move there moves again. Goal is not time bound. It's just that I want to be. Now, you asked yourself the next question.
So the question was, how does a SWOT analysis help with that?
Yes. Why I post, I'm saying, after you have your dream and your goal set to be the 1, 2, 3, then you ask yourself the question, how do I get there? And you then answer the question beginning with, to do this, to achieve this, we shall, 1, attract the best skills, the best staff who are skilled, motivated, and all that. That's 1, people. Increase our networks so that we can share ideas, we can get grants, so networking is another. Resource mobilization, that is fundraising, getting commissioned work, You might even say at least be commissioned one job per year. Okay. Another one would be, how will I know I'm even getting there? Will be at least win an award every other year. So you are putting those milestones, you are putting together criteria for success. In doing this, you are defining your mission statements.
Mm-hmm.
Mission statement answers that we will do this by, we wish to achieve this by. It has to be specific, measurable, and time-bound. Specific, measurable, and time-bound. You can't say we will work hardest and take advantage of all opportunities. What does that mean? What does that mean? It has to be specific. It's like somebody telling you, work hard, pull up your socks. How do you know I'm wearing any socks at all? So that is a mission statement. So I've talked of two things. Goal is your vision, your dream. The criteria for success, which has to be I like to describe it as the 3 Qs: quality, quantity, and the question of cost. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you've got your resources, you've got the number of productions, you've got the people issues, the network, the branding, whatever is important for you. Then you go to, okay, fine, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to achieve in 2 years' time, in 4 years' time. But let me take stock of where I am compared to where I have to go. That's when you do a pastel. You scan the political environment. What are the factors? What is cooking? What is up, good or bad? It doesn't matter. Positive or negative, it doesn't matter. What's happening currently? What's likely to happen in another year or two? It's like starting a business during a campaign season, political campaign season in Africa. You ain't getting nowhere unless you're printing T-shirts, promotional items.
Yeah.
You're making the helmets, the hats, the T-shirts, which the politicians always do. So that's different. Or providing transport. So political environment, economic environment. Is the economy going down? Is it going up? I'm going through pastel. Social, demographics, we have more youth. Age average is becoming lower and lower. So if it's me making content for the traditional conservative 45, 50-year-old and above, they might love it, but they only make 3% of the population. That's something I struggle with every day, because for me, making stuff for Gen Z doesn't come naturally. I like to speak to my age mates, but we are dinosaurs and an endangered species. So I'll do it to please me, but it might not bring me the income, So that's economic, social. We've talked about social, the social structures, who is living where, the urban versus rural. And then we come to technology, access to smartphones, access to credits to be able to watch, access to TV. Are people doing TV, or are they doing newspapers, and all that sort of thing. And then you look at pastel, that's a T, the other E, what am I? Environmental. Are there environmental issues that are going to affect you? Do you have a strong national institution that is really now strict on carbon credits? Issues to do with carbon credits, issues to do with planting trees. Is it going to affect you? And then finally, you're also looking at legislative. I keep telling people, do not ignore debates in parliament, because that's why they debate bills and they make them into acts. And when it becomes an act and it's gone through the Attorney General's office, it goes to the president to sign, and then it's gazetted as the law of the land. But there are so many young people who don't take interest in this. Their bills, Kenya bill on the film policy has been floating around Parliament and the ministry for the last 23 years. I should know because I've been part of drafting it to a point I'm giving up. So you need to know what's about to be made law. Kenya, just 2-3 days ago, has passed a law on social media. There are lots of people who would think they are entertaining people and getting followers on social media, but they'll find themselves with 2 years imprisonment.
Oh, geez.
Yes, it is a very restrictive law. Yeah. Those forwards, you see something you forward, now people will be thinking twice because you might see yourself in prison for 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're saying, nothing is built in a vacuum.
Yes.
We really do have to do this environmental analysis
Exactly. Yeah.
and figure
So
out.
people need to know the laws which are coming up, which are already existing. Like, I'll give you another simple one. You find a tour guide when they are organizing a tour with a foreigner, and then the foreigner says, and I would like to film this and this, I'd like to make a film of it. And the guide says, okay, I can do that for you. You can bring your cameras. Oh no, there are rules on bringing in commercial cameras and taxes to be paid, excise duty to be paid. Also, it's a Kenyan law. For foreign film services, a license must be applied by a local registered filming agent. That is the likes of me, filmmakers. So we are registered somewhere, and we're the only ones allowed to take foreign crew because whatever happens, whatever they film in this country, it's my responsibility. So now imagine that tour guide who just said, yes, we can do it, but he's registered as a tour guide. And then they find themselves filming in restricted places and they don't even have licenses. They find themselves flying drones and they don't know to fly a drone in Kenya, you must get a license from the Kenya Aviation Commission. And then there's Kenya Aviation. After you get that certificate, then you must go to, let's say, Kenya Wildlife and get another certificate there from Kenya Wildlife and present your drone certificate. Those are laws, whether you like it or not. It's security issues. We are a country where we can, terrorism attacks have happened in the past, so there are laws. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite similar here in Botswana as well, where you have this sort of unregulated activity going on where it's trying to find permits to go shoot up north with the wildlife and with delta risk. And it's a challenge because right now, even as you're speaking, very much like Kenya, there is a bill. There's a cinematography bill that's been stuck in Parliament for years.
Yes,
years.
Always happens. Yes. Yeah.
So it's quite interesting to just be aware. You have to be aware. But you did mention, sorry, go on.
Yeah, people have to be aware, but that is now, we've talked about the pastel, you're scanning the external environment. Then you come in, the SWOT analysis, what are you good at? And you do it every day and you do it well. Then there is that is S for SWOT, W, weaknesses, things you know you could do better, but you haven't been doing well. So these are the areas for improvement. Might be skills, might be leadership, might be your marketing abilities, your distribution abilities. So that is internal. But then there's another external threats. There are barriers in your path and there's nothing you can do about it. You can only plan a strategy on how to hedge around because it's not you who's put that barrier, but it's there. Yeah. So, and then finally, opportunities. In the SWOT analysis, when you look at the opportunities, we are looking at potential. It's not strength, it is potential you have, but you haven't exercised it. So S for strength, W for weakness, O opportunity, which is potential, that talent, that latent potential that you haven't used, and T for threats, barriers in your path that you can't do anything about. So all this is a strategy process. Then before you ask the next question, if you've been writing all these things from the vision, mission, pastel, SWOT analysis, stakeholder analysis. Who are the people and the groups of people, parties interested in your success? The government is interested in your success because your films will market the country. The government is interested in your success because you'll pay more taxes. Youth are interested in your success, employment. Your own employees are interested in your success. They don't have to worry about, will we get paid? And it goes on and on and on. Your siblings, your friends, they just want you to be successful because you're ever broke and they're ever loaning you money. So be the one who gives us money, not the other way around, So when now you look at all those analyses, the PESTEL, the SWOT, the stakeholder analysis, you can see the themes that keep popping up, whether negative or positive. Those are your thematic areas. Those are the areas you must have actions and initiatives. They usually end up being about 5 to 8 to 10. If you're getting into 12, 15, you split them so much, they need to be grouped. Then you ask yourself, so what actions should I take? What actions? By when? Who would do it? Do I have the resources? What? At times how? Where are the resources? And by when? That's it. You have your full strategy. Easy as that.
Yeah. Nice. So, yeah, so I really enjoyed that because you're giving people these are the tangibles. This is what you need to be doing. You've got to go through these different, and all of that will naturally develop this business strategy for your company, which for your personal life, really. Are these working documents? Like, is there a set, like it's for 5 years, 10 years, or is it a running document?
Pause as I move. So, first of all those key steps I've talked about, vision, mission, environmental scan, PESTEL, SWOT, stakeholder analysis, thematic areas, actions and initiatives. If you do that in a day and you are done, then you are fooling yourself. What a fool are you? This process can take months. Months. If you're doing it on your own or your best buddy, whom you share the same jokes, you see things in the same way, you're fooling yourself. You need to bring people who think differently, invite them to the sessions, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of thinking, a lot of research. So the more diverse people you have in the team helping you, the better, because you are able to see everything 360 degrees. It can take about a month, 2 months. I've done strategies a lot. I have facilitated strategies for very big organizations in Kenya. And even to do the strategy for my small company, I still bring in a consultant and we go through like a process of 3 months. Fine-tuning. How should the strategy document look like? There are people who will have a 200-page document, and there's a CEO who writes a strategy at the back of a matchbox. It's not the number of words. It's not how big and fancy the document is. It's how clear it is. How clear is it? How realistic is it? And how well is it understood by you, your employees, and other people who are involved in your business? Clarity is the most important, not the fancifulness or the size of the document. It is a clarity. Ideally, when I started consultancy in the late 80s, towards about 87, 89, we used to sit down and help clients develop a 5-year strategy. Then on year 3, we do a major review and see what has been achieved, we remove it, and what needs to be replaced by another action. Today, the world changes so fast that even big companies employ permanent staff and a permanent department to keep checking on the strategy, the achievement of it. They need to up targets, they need to lower, they need to remove things out, and they need to bring in. And every 2 years, serious companies, every 2 years, they take time out, they go away from their offices, and they do a strategy review as a workshop every 2 years, but doing continuous monitoring. In my company, I'm not the best, but I try to put the habit of personally initiating review of our strategy every 3 months. I found it useful. Some things we've dropped them along the way. If you say at least win one commissioned project from Netflix or Amazon or whatever, and then they go shut down. They stop buying content, they stop commissioning. So are you still going to keep that in your strategy? You remove it and replace it with another, okay? So a strategy life, you can do a 5-year plan, but you've got to review it, revise it every 2 years, and ideally do a quarterly review. That is your company strategy and your personal strategy. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's like me, I've always wanted to run the marathons. I knew I was going to be a marathon runner and a sports, Kenya is a sports country. But I developed spine problems at age 25.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
I think I only managed in my life, I only did one marathon, and it was a painful process.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Does
Yeah.
that mean I stop sports? No, I hike because I'm hiking at my own pace. I'm not looking for a medal, it's just a fitness. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Keep reviewing your strategy. Yeah.
That's lovely, Njoki. I mean, the idea of having to pivot and to shift and to change and to be quick in terms of that, I think that's a really important attribute that we need to have in terms of business and life in general.
Yes,
So
definitely.
You mentioned your company. I just wanted to know, how did you, when it comes to, you've mentioned that take, for example, the people that you work with, you might not necessarily sort of engage with Gen Z. You mentioned that before. I'm just wondering now, how do you pick the right people in terms of your company, and how also then do you figure out, okay, for your production company, we're going with this sort of organizational structure,
Okay.
as opposed to a different one?
A very good question. One, I accepted I'm in the 3% endangered species of any any country's population, demography of any country. Therefore, I surround myself with the people who matter, much younger than me. I can use my experience and my wisdom to talk about this theoretical abstract stuff, but the meat, who puts in the meat into the skeleton? It's the young people. Easier said than done, because when you're older and more experienced, these young people tend to wait for you to give the answers. So I have a wicked personal strategy. I make myself rare physically. So I don't go on set.
I see.
Even if I need a meeting with my cast and crew or with my permanent employees, I let somebody younger, closer to their age, to run the meeting. My trick, I fashionably arrive late. I sit at the back and I become a meeting participant. But meanwhile, I've talked with the person leading the meeting, what the agenda should be, some of the outputs I expect, highlights, high level, but the details of it, it's up to them. I find that way, I get more ideas from the young people. But the minute I stand in front, they go quiet. It's very, very disturbing when people are having heated discussions. You walk into the room and they go dead quiet. It's so frustrating. So that is one technique I use. I use my knowledge, like structuring theories, visions, the mission. I spend a lot of time behind the desk thinking it through. I spend time, I dissociate myself from the day-to-day nuances so that I can keep visionary. That might sound too abstract, but it's not to me. I remind my staff, if you keep calling me every 2 minutes because cast so-and-so has refused to come to work, or this prop has gone missing, or the food is bad today. If you keep calling me for that, then you'll not have the next project, because I should be sitting behind my desk, strategizing, making calls, and going for meetings. I have a rule: 80% visions, working out the plan, reviewing the plan, making the connections, the networks, designing and reviewing systems. Oh my, I love doing that. And I irritate the daylights out of people. I'll be like, now we need a system for procurement. So stage 1, there's stage 2, that now it's security system. Now I think we even need a senior security person. This is how it's going to work. Pen and pencil, paper and pencil doing that. I only do 20% operational. I go on set when a decision needs to be made, and I need to physically be there for the decision to be made. Major conflict situation where my team have tried to resolve, now I go in as a last port of call. I keep telling lots of executive producers, you have the word executive in front of your title, not operational. So let your managers make decisions. If the decisions flare up and they are wrong and they go in the wrong direction, you can always go in and say, oh, please forgive my manager, but let's discuss this again. What did you want? But if you're involved at every level, you will never have that opportunity to even say, oh, I think my manager was wrong. Meanwhile, I've even told the manager, you are not wrong. Well done, you tried, but a mistake was made. So strategize, I call it risk management. Empower your people to make decisions, but be there to hold things if things are going wrong. Give a structure in a mitigation process. That's what I do.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. I'm sure that was a learning thing, as you were going through your experience. It's not that you necessarily knew that from the right beginning. So it's important, I guess, what you're saying is to just have your different leadership styles, in your toolkit to be able to handle different situations.
You said it makes me so sad that all these institutions that teach film, they don't have a leadership and management component. That makes me so sad, because even in the military, they have such high-level leadership and management programs. Actually, one of my dreams is to run leadership and management programs in a military academy. I would love to do that. Actually, I have books. I read a lot of books or follow stories of great generals of the past, starting with Shaka Zulu. Yeah. There's so much to learn. So why am I saying this? Why is it when you do a science subject, there's a management program? Or one thing that upsets me, this MBA, it stands on its own. What are you managing? Why don't we have mini MBAs in every other graduate program, in every diploma program? What we lack a lot in the creative economy are administrators and managers. We've got the talent, we've got the technical skills, we've got such amazing talent in Africa. You and I have just come from that Creation Forum Africa by the French Embassy in Lagos. You saw the mass of talent that this continent has.
Indeed.
But if we don't have managers who understand creative economy. That's why we have countries who don't see the importance of passing policies for the creative industry. That is why most African countries are struggling with incentives, and rebates, because decisions are being made by people who are not creatives, and the creatives never get to those high-level government positions because also they missed out on the training on leadership and management.
Yeah.
This is a pet topic of mine. It's close to my heart. That's why on DFMI, when they say do a business lab, I say there's one module, there are three modules I must have. One, working with diversity, understanding personalities. Two, leadership and management. Three, performance management and review. Yeah.
So, I mean, we're running a little out of time, Njoki, but I did want to quickly touch on that, how do we start measuring this? Because once we have the people in place who push creative policy and all of that, how do we then measure performance from a
You
company?
can't measure that was not set up. So the setup must have had clear criteria for success. You can't monitor that which you hadn't yet decided what it is you're going to monitor. Criteria for success comes in the mission, because you're breaking down, we will do this by. And also, when you're doing your actions and you're saying, we'll do this, strategic actions, and you say, we'll achieve this by this time, then you already have your template. So if you haven't thought through the criteria for success, your review of the success, your review of the performance is a journey through absurdity, if not foolishness.
Yeah.
And you're going to focus on the great things. You say, yes, we did one film. Hey, we are great. How do you know if we are not capable of doing 5 films? And you did one film, then that's it. You are a splash on the pan. You are sell by date past. You used to be good. So if you want sustainability and continuity, criteria for success within these 2 years, tick, tick, we did this, surprise, this happened. Okay, so what do we do for the next 2 years? Let's up the game. This is what I was talking of the S curve. Each time you start here, you go, and then because you're reviewing your performance continuously, you are like, we've achieved early, we are starting to have diminishing returns. So you're like, a review of strategy, more challenging targets, and then you start another curve. And that's how you get the S curve. So by the time you reach the climax, the top, watch out the plateauing. You lift again, and then another, and then you go like that, both personal and business.
Yeah.
So
what? Yeah, go on, please.
Criteria for success is your checklist for monitoring, a score of even 1 to 5. 1 is excellent, 5 is we did nothing, 3 is average. Then you're able to say, this is where we got the 3. We even did well considering the environment was changing. Okay. However, let's do it again next year, same. Let's try the same and see whether we can get into a 1, which is excellent. Yeah. I think that you got a 5, which is the worst. You'll be like, why did that happen? Oh, because the environment changed so much, it became an irrelevant thing. So strike it up, forget it. Replace it with another one that's more current. A strategy, whether personal strategy or company strategy, is as alive as you are as a human being. It will need panel beating, and it needs to be fed. You need to monitor it, feed it, and up it, make it more challenging each time. There's a thing I call monkey management. If somebody puts a monkey on your shoulder, you either say, it isn't my monkey, and you put it back to the owner's shoulder, or you say, welcome monkey, I'm going to feed you and make you healthy, which means you have accepted it, or you ignore it and it becomes a pregnant monkey. It produces other monkeys and you ain't getting anywhere. You are just being suppressed by the weight. Worse still is you take a monkey that is sick. So now you are now babysitting, you are caregiving a monkey that is getting you nowhere. So I do bring in the principle of monkey management when I talk about strategy. Like, is this your action? Is it yours? And where is it taking you? Or are you borrowing it from somebody else and it will come and be an incontinental monkey messing you up throughout? Yes. Own your strategy. Make the strategy. Personal, company, they must have a congruence. Review your strategy because it's a live document. You don't keep reviewing it, looking at it, it becomes a dead strategy and it becomes a recipe for your disaster rather than a recipe for your success. I think that's a fair way of concluding it.
Yeah, I think that's a good one as well, especially the layered approach to it, like you're saying, to have a self-appraisal, do the work on yourself, and then your people, your appraisal of your team, and then a more general performance appraisal. And that way you have these metrics.
One thing we haven't talked about, it's critical. You have your strategy, you have what you need to do, but you must load yourself with the skills and attitudes that you need to achieve that strategy. A good strategy on paper without the people, the skill, and the resources is as good as no strategy at all. Yeah.
And so I know I keep saying last question, as a very brief answer, how does one go about equipping themselves with that skill?
When you've done your strategy, then you ask yourself, do I have the skills to do this? One of the things I keep saying, I'm lacking marketing and social media management skills in my company. I don't have it within the company. I find it embarrassing when I, the oldest in the company, am the one who is guiding our social media. Something is wrong. It shouldn't be me. So I'll hire somebody. The question is, what is the skills matrix? What are the combinations of skills you need to achieve your strategy? Do you have them in-house? Are you going to hire them on a need basis? Are you going to subcontract? Basically, that's a decision. Do you know we do that all the time without being strategic about it? Yeah. Like probably I won't employ an ICT person because the ICT day-to-day level we need, I can handle, one of my other colleagues can handle, but major, I mean, I need a website redone, I need this and this done. I hire somebody, 2-3 months, they finish the job and we move on. Yeah. So what do you need permanently, day-to-day, and what can you hire? Yeah.
All right, Njoki, we are running out of time. I just wanted to first, for people who want to reach you, how do we contact you?
How can people get in touch with Njoki Muhoho? My name is right there on the screen, and I use my full name on all my social media. I don't hide anywhere. I am one of those people, is what you see is what you get. So I use my full name on my social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. And because one time on Facebook, some young people called me retired Gen Z. So I went ahead and opened a TikTok account. So that's me. And when you DM me on social media, I always respond, always. But I like something personal. in the message. Like, I met you. I'm an alumni of yours on this and this. So I'm put into perspective because there are too many young people trying to reach me. When they say, "Hi, Njoki, I'd like to act in one of your shows," I really don't know what to say. I simply say, "Thank you so much. I'm not the casting director." So it's got to be something substantial so we can have a conversation. And most of the time when somebody asks something really substantial, then I tell them, "Here's my email, send me an email. I'm better at explaining things on email." Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Njoki.
So,
Well, I think that's it for this episode. I mean, it's been very insightful, and I'm so grateful that we have the chance to chat. And thank you so much, Njoki.
all right then, super. Thank you so much for having me. And for DFMI, I think, not that I think, I know it's a great initiative. And those who attend my classes, I get a lot of fun and also I learn a lot. I engage the participants a lot because I also want to see their countries through their eyes. So, and I love impacting the little skills I have, the little knowledge I have. I love to impact it to the next generation. With that, then I would die a happy person, knowing that I've done my bit to make the world a better place. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers for that, Njoki.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Most
All
welcome.
right.
Super.
Thank you for listening. We hope that you learned something new or that you felt compelled to further interrogate your professional practice. Never miss an episode. Find us wherever you get your podcasts or sign up to filmart.africa for exclusive video content from this episode, where the African film industry unites.